talking to a few people because I was, there's no question it's made me want to be a better man. Pay the character the right respect that it deserves.
I couldn't imagine a better group of people to be sharing this ride with.
How did it feel as an actor to explore this side of Captain America further?
It was great.
Before wearing the shield, Chris Evans couldn't breathe through the pressure. Panic attacks followed him off set. Fame felt like a trap, not a reward. Most people never hear this part of the story. Superhero stories usually begin with power. This one began with avoidance. At the exact moment Chris Evans was supposed to want more visibility, more fame, and a bigger platform, he was doing the opposite. He was shrinking his life, turning down roles, and trying to escape the spotlight altogether. The industry saw a perfect fit for a symbol. He saw a future where his identity disappeared behind it. What followed wasn't confidence or ambition. It was fear, doubt, and a decision that felt physically unbearable. Before Chris Evans became Captain America, he was actively running away from superheroes, and not in a casual way. He was genuinely afraid of what they represented for his life. By the mid-2000s, Evans had momentum in Hollywood. He was recognizable, charming, and clearly positioned as a leading man. But that visibility came with a pressure he was not emotionally prepared for. After playing the Human Torch in Fantastic Four, he felt boxed in by expectation. Big franchises meant loss of privacy, loss of control, and the fear of becoming a product instead of a person. Success didn't calm him. It intensified everything. Panic attacks became frequent. Anxiety followed him off set. The idea of being watched, judged, and locked into long-term contracts made him feel trapped. Evans wasn't chasing fame or legacy. He wanted balance, anonymity, and space to breathe. Acting was something he loved, but the industry's machinery felt overwhelming. He began turning down high-profile roles intentionally, choosing smaller films just to feel human again. So when Marvel came calling once more, offering something even bigger, his instinct wasn't curiosity or ambition. It was survival. He wanted out, not in. When Marvel Studios formally offered Evans the role of Captain America, it didn't feel like an opportunity. It felt like a burden. This wasn't a one-off performance or a contained trilogy. It was a multi-film commitment that could define his public identity for over a decade. Captain America wasn't a flashy character who hid behind sarcasm or moral ambiguity. He was sincerity personified, honor, duty, moral clarity. In an industry built on irony and reinvention, that terrified Evans. He read the script and immediately felt the weight of expectation. If this role failed, it wouldn't just be another misstep. It would follow him forever. Worse, if it succeeded, he feared it would consume him. The idea of being permanently associated with one symbol felt suffocating. So he said no. Then he said no again. Marvel didn't pressure him publicly, but they kept the door open, convinced he was the right choice. Evans, meanwhile, saw the role not as a career peak, but as a cage. A well-lit, celebrated cage with no exit. As the offer lingered, Evans spiraled inward. The more he avoided the role, the more it occupied his thoughts. Captain America became a symbol of everything he feared: exposure, responsibility, permanence. The role demanded vulnerability without armor, conviction without cynicism. Playing Steve Rogers meant standing openly for values without irony, and that left no place to hide. Evans talked to friends, family, and mentors, trying to articulate why the role felt so wrong. One question kept returning, uncomfortably persistent. What if the problem wasn't the role, but the fear itself? Evans began to realize that he wasn't rejecting Captain America because the character lacked depth. He was rejecting it because it demanded courage he wasn't sure he possessed. Steve Rogers wasn't powerful because of strength. He was powerful because of belief. And Evans doubted his own. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. He recognized that fear was already controlling his choices, and that scared him more than the role ever could. When Evans finally accepted the role, his preparation didn't start in the gym. It started emotionally. He understood that Steve Rogers wasn't defined by muscles or spectacle. He was defined by persistence, by moral stubbornness, by the refusal to step aside when told he didn't belong. Evans leaned into that fragility. He played Steve as someone who had spent his life being dismissed, underestimated, and physically limited. The super soldier serum didn't create Steve's character. It revealed it. Evans made that distinction central to his performance. The iconic line, "I can do this all day," wasn't delivered as bravado. It was quiet, tired, and sincere. It sounded like something a person says after being knocked down repeatedly and standing up anyway. Evans didn't portray Captain America as an icon. He portrayed him as a man who chose decency even when it isolated him. That grounded choice transformed what could have been a hollow symbol into someone audiences could believe in. When Captain America, the first Avenger, was released, something unexpected happened. Audiences didn't cheer because Steve Rogers was impressive. They connected because he was good. In a cinematic landscape filled with anti-heroes and moral ambiguity, his sincerity felt radical. Evans made kindness feel powerful again, not naive. Steve Rogers wasn't cool, ironic, or dominant. He was principled, and somehow that worked. Evans anchored scenes rather than overpowering them. He listened. He hesitated. He chose compassion even when strength would have been easier. That restraint gave the character gravity. Marvel didn't just introduce another hero. They introduced a moral center, someone audiences trusted instinctively. Steve Rogers didn't demand loyalty. He earned it. And Evans' performance made that trust feel natural rather than scripted. As the MCU evolved, Captain America's role shifted. The world around him grew darker, morally complicated, and divided. Steve Rogers became the steady presence amid chaos. Evans played this evolution with quiet exhaustion. You could see the toll in his posture, his expressions, his silences. Being right wasn't easy. It was lonely. While others compromised, Steve held his line, even when it cost him friendships and peace. Evans infused those conflicts with emotional weight, showing the price of integrity. By the time Avengers Endgame arrived, Steve Rogers felt worn down, not diminished, but human. When he finally said, "Avengers assemble," it didn't feel triumphant. It felt earned. A release after years of carrying responsibility without relief. The shield wasn't just a weapon, it was a burden. Chris Evans didn't become Captain America because he wanted to be a superhero. He became Captain America because he had to confront fear instead of letting it decide his life. Steve Rogers represented everything Evans thought he lacked: certainty, courage, steadiness. And by embodying those qualities on screen, he slowly grew into them off screen. Captain America was never about perfection. He failed, he doubted, he lost. What mattered was integrity under pressure. Evans didn't just wear the shield, he grew into its meaning. And when Steve Rogers finally chose a quiet life instead of endless war, it felt honest. The man who once feared commitment learned how to stand for something without losing himself. That's why Chris Evans didn't just play Captain America. He gave the character a soul that audiences will carry long after the shield is set down. Chris Evans didn't become Captain America because he felt fearless. He became Captain America because he chose not to let fear decide his life. The shield wasn't a reward, it was a weight. And the reason the character worked is because the man carrying it was learning how to stand up in real time. Now tell me this honestly. Do you think Captain America would have mattered as much if Evans hadn't brought his own fear into the role? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you appreciate stories that look past costumes and box office numbers to show what these roles really cost, the people playing them, subscribe. Because the most powerful heroes aren't built from confidence. They're built in the moment someone almost walks away and doesn't.